In this video, I'm going to show you some of the footage I was able to capture using the Guide Sensmart TN650 thermal binoculars, and I'm going to start right now. Right, okay, so the first thing I wanted to speak about was a footage that I captured on my very first night of testing, and it is of the donkeys that reside in the field just behind my house. So here the interesting thing for me is the fact that I'm shooting through the leaves of a tree at a donkey eating in the field just behind. And so this is one of the real advantages of thermal night vision, in that you can look through some things. Now obviously it depends on the heat signature, because as you can see now, that as the donkey walks behind the trunk of the tree, it becomes invisible because the heat signature can't pass through something as dense as that. Right, okay, so in the second example, I just wanted to show you once again that I'm looking at, especially the donkey on the right-hand side, is still easily visible through some fairly thick shrubbery. Also, what I've done here is just change the palette, and a little bit later on I will cycle through more of the options available just to give you an understanding. Also, just to point out that the range that I'm shooting at here is about 43 meters or so. Now, whilst these thermal binoculars do have a laser rangefinder on them, for the life of me, I can't figure out how to show that information on the recorded image. You do see it through the viewfinder, and so what I'll do is I'll just also put in some footage here of some of the footage that I shot with my phone looking through the ocular piece, just to give you an understanding of the sort of information that you see, which is quite different with a heads-up display, quite different to what is actually recorded on the device. Okay, so here I'm just actually going to cycle through the different modes, just so you can get an understanding of all the options that are available. Now, for me, there's no particular one that's the best. It just depends on what subject you're trying to look at, what level of detail you're trying to find, and so it just essentially pays off to cycle through them when you're out there looking, just until you get the one that suits your particular surroundings and what you're trying to look at that moment. Right, okay, so with this next bit of footage, I was actually once again filming the donkeys when I noticed something bright and shiny in the background. And that's one of the great advantages with thermal imaging. If there's something out there that's has a big temperature difference to its surroundings, it will jump out at you. And here we can see that at a range of about I think about 70, 75, 80 meters here, you can quite easily see that there is something that is smaller than a cat but larger than a mouse. So the detection sort of range is excellent. You can easily detect that there's something there. As for recognition, here it's with the long grass and obviously the lack of detail that you can get at that sort of range on such a small object. It is quite difficult to positively identify exactly what this is without knowing what type of animals that frequent your area and things like that. Also, I just wanted to quickly mention here that the cricket sounds or the nighttime sounds that you hear in the background of this video are not recorded by the thermal imager. This device, as far as I can find out, does not record sound. So what I've done is just put some ambient sounds in there, just because I think it makes the video sound better. But on top of that, it also just to make it obvious to you that I'm recording this at nighttime, because later on in the video I'll be shooting some stuff during the daylight hours, and I will take out the sound just so that it makes it you just understand it easier without even having to for me to explain it each time. Right, okay, so as promised, here's some footage of my cat, which is looking out into the field. Now, the reason she's out there is she's, at the moment, they often go hunting, but she's actually looking at the neighbor's cat, who's also out in the field hunting. Here we, once again, at the boundary between my property and the field, which is about 35 meters. And we can clearly see that that is a cat and not a rodent or something else that we saw before. Now, as the cat moves around, she eventually comes up onto the decking in the foreground, which is at about 10, 12 meters from me. You'll see a much better and closer view of her. Yeah, there she goes. So now what is interesting here is, for me, is you will soon see that I will focus on her, but then also what she's looking at in the field. which is the neighbor's cat. Now, as human beings, I can tell you, I was there, it was dark, I couldn't see anything in the field. Now, it's absolutely amazing that animals, I think they use their ears as well as their eyesight. I mean, I can't tell whether the cat, you can see her ears moving, she's picking up where that other cat is, and there I go, I start searching for it because I realize here that, what is she looking at? Can she see anything? And hey presto, there you go. There's the neighbor's cat in the grass. So she's actually hearing or seeing that, or both. Whereas to my eyes, it was completely invisible, and to my ears, there was no sound at all. Luckily, as human beings, we have bigger brains, and we're able to build devices like these thermal imagers, which help us to see in what is, to our eyesight, complete darkness. Also, what I'll carry on to mention here, what is continues to be interesting, is that cat in the field. We can see it's a cat. The detection range there, again, that was about 70 meters. So similar to the other animal that we saw previously. But here, because we know the shape and it's slightly bigger, we can tell that it is a cat and not something else. So once again, we can detect it, but because we know the shape and the way it acts, we can also identify it. Okay, so what I find really interesting here is before I was looking through these leaves on the tree, and we were able to see the donkey passing behind them. Now, obviously, a donkey is a lot larger animal. It gives off a much bigger heat signature, and therefore we were able to see it more clearly than we can a cat, which is obviously a lot smaller and gives off a lot less heat. Now, I think possibly I was also here focusing on the leaves rather than through them, just because it was a little bit difficult. But in general, that's the theory that applies here. The larger the heat difference and the larger amount of heat given off, the more you're able to look through obstacles in the way. Right, so this next bit of footage was for me extremely interesting and revealing to just show just how sensitive this thermal imager is. So this tree is to the right of me now, and it's actually a shrub, and it's at a range of about 10 meters. And look, you can see insects crawling around on some of the branches. Now, they are really small, and yet they jump out at you to make it completely obvious that you can, they're there. And what's more is you'll see just now that some of them actually start flying off. So as to exactly what they were, I'm not sure. It was dark. Also, worth mentioning here is take a look at the branches of and some of the leaves of this shrub. It's interesting to me that the thicker branches are obviously warmer than the thinner ones because they give off, they're brighter in the image. And therefore, they either retain more heat or they have more heat than thinner branches. So the thinner branches obviously lose their heat quicker or have less heat in them. You'll also notice to the left of the video, I sometimes pan around, there it is, a black, it's actually a ladder. It's made out of metal, and therefore it's black because it is already very cold. Right, so this next clip was captured during the daytime, and at first you can see I'm focusing in on the foliage, but you can see that there's something that is giving off a heat signature behind it. Then as you change the focus and look through the foliage, you're able to then identify that yes, it indeed is a chicken. And also just to point out that this was actually taken during the daytime now and not at nighttime. And I guess the main point of interest here is the fact that the face of the chicken is obviously a lot warmer than the rest of the body. Right, so once again, we have some more footage of a chicken. Once again, I also took this during daylight hours. This time, this chicken was actually in the barn next to our house. Once again, you can clearly see that its face is far warmer than the rest of the body, but also you'll notice that its legs are also warm. This is the same as human beings and things like that. But here I'm just delaying slightly to let the film run on a bit. You will also notice, look, the footprints, the heat signature gets left within the hay. So the chicken is actually leaving a certain amount of heat in the hay, and this device is sensitive enough to actually pick this up. Now, I'm wondering whether this has some applications that would be useful to people in terms of tracking and things like that. It might be of interest under certain conditions, and obviously if animals walk on certain materials and things like that. So in these next couple of clips, I actually film a cold-blooded animal that is obviously a lizard. And here we have the footage to prove that it is cold-blooded. That is because we can clearly see that the lizard, being a darker color, is colder than the bench slats, which are sitting in the sun, which are shining bright white. So we can clearly see that the lizard it gives off less heat than its surroundings. Right, okay, so where I live, it's harvesting time, and the fields all around us are filled with noisette trees, which in English is hazelnuts, so what Nutella's made out of. So I took the opportunity, this is obviously shot during the day, to film a farmer with his tractor and what he uses to hoover up all the nuts that they've shaken down and are actually on the ground. So it's quite interesting here. You can quite clearly see that some of the pipes are a heck of a lot warmer than the rest of the machinery around them. Obviously, with the tractor, you can see the engine, the part of where the engine is, and that shines white hot. Obviously warmer than the driver. Whereas the loader on the front and things like that, the wheels and that, are obviously a lot colder and at a similar temperature to the surroundings. Also, just to note that this range was at about 100 meters. So, detection range at 100 meters, absolutely no problem for large objects where the heat signature is obviously greatly different to the surroundings. Right, okay, so then lastly now I have some footage that I captured of a bird on the bird feeder, which just sits, at a very close range just outside my sliding door. So here we're shooting at a very close range of sort of under 5 meters. And that's the main thing I just wanted to point out in this video. Then in the next clip, I'm just going to once again cycle through all the different palettes that are available to you, just to once again, just to emphasize that how I feel or how I look at it, there isn't one particular palette that's better than all the others. It's more about for each situation that you find yourself in, discovering the palette that best suits your needs and what it is exactly you're looking for. Right, so as this video continues, I just wanted to point out that obviously I'm here recording it from the hand, so it is not mounted onto a tripod, whereas some of the other footage that you'll see that I captured, I had mounted it onto a tripod, and therefore it is far more steadier. Also, just to point out here that all this footage that I captured was within the first 2 days of my testing this device, and therefore the opportunities to record interesting subjects and actually my general overall skill level was actually quite low. Given more time and a more suitable location. So, for example, I would love to take this on safari, somewhere in Africa with me and spend a couple of weeks hidden in front of a water hole or something like that, camping out at night. The things you would see would be absolutely amazing. Right, okay, so that's about it for this video. But before you leave, I just wanted to say, for the full review, where I'll obviously go into much more detail on all the features on this thermal imaging binocular, please be sure to check out the link down below. That'll take you through to the BBR website. Then, lastly, I would just like to say thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers for now.